Are you afraid of the dark?
Jake was a rotten boy. His favorite thing to play was the boo game. Every chance he would get, he would scare the living daylights out of his mother or father, or whatever poor unsuspecting soul crossed his path. Jake's mother was usually his favorite victim, but what she dreaded most was when her or her husband's parents would come to visit. She loved them all dearly, but worried so for their health. Jake's incessant scares couldn't be good for their hearts. But no matter how many times he was told, the boy simply wouldn't stop. For an August night it was rather chilly, and Jake had just jumped out and scared the devil out of his mother for the umpteenth time that day. She shrieked and rolled her eyes, carrying the basket full of laundry that she was surprised she hadn't dropped. He laughed hysterically, just like he always did. You would think by that point everyone would be used to Jake and his childish nonsense, but it simply wasn't something you get used to. After supper, his father walked him upstairs to his room to make sure he was getting ready for and in bed before turning his back on the lad. And sure enough, the boy had donned his pajamas, tucked himself in. He couldn't help but think that this was ridiculous behavior for a boy of 11. He closed the door behind him and headed back downstairs to watch some TV with his wife. Jake lay in his bed, watching the shadows from the trees outside perform a puppet show on his ceiling. He was thinking of all the great places to hide in the house that he hadn't tried yet. His parents' bedroom was a good place. Maybe he would try the laundry chute. That was brilliant, he thought to himself. And a strange noise grabbed his attention. He couldn't discern where the noise had come from, and just then he remembered his father telling him one day that someone was going to scare the daylights out of him to repay him for all of his shenanigans. And he chuckled just then, staring up at his ceiling, as if anyone could get one up on him. He continued to watch his little puppet show for a while, and began to feel himself drift slowly to sleep. Another mysterious noise made his eyes shoot open. He sat up in bed, scanning the dark for the source of the noise. Along the far wall, he saw a bent and crooked shadow run to the other end of his room. He jumped out of bed and bolted from his room to the stairs, which he took two at a time until he saw his parents watching TV in the living room. "Mom, Dad, there's something in my room," he shouted in earnest. His parents gave him a knowing look. "We aren't falling for that old trick," said his father. "But Dad," his father cut him off straight away. "Bed," was all he said. Jake was dumbfounded. They weren't even going to check. He hesitated, but did as he was told. Maybe it was just his imagination, a trick of the shadows. He had himself convinced by the time he made it back to his bed. He laid down, tucking the covers up to his chin, and turned on his side. But that was a mistake. Once he did, he saw a face. That of a clown, but evil, and it must have been half rotted. The eyes were wide and without pupils. The skin around its painted mouth was bloodied with bits of deep red flesh stuck between its sharpened teeth. Its nose was pointed, sharp as a pencil, and its hair was stringy and wet, fraying on either side of its otherwise bald head. It leaned in slowly, mere centimeters from Jake's face. it said in a hoarse whisper. Frozen in terror, Jake screamed as loud as he could for his parents to come save him. Downstairs, the couple heard the boy screaming bloody murder from his room and smiled. "It really was nice of your dad to come by with his special effects makeup on such short notice," she said to her husband, popping a pinch of popcorn in her mouth. "Yep," he replied, his grin wider than his father's upstairs.